what's up? If you like board games, miniatures, and the smell of paint and glue, you are in the right place. Welcome to Boardgasm. Yeah, we're live. Here we go. What's up? Here we go. Come on in. That took a second. What's up? Welcome to Boardgasm episode... Wait, what episode are we on? Hold on a second. Boardgasm, where are we? There we go, episode 18. Good Lord. I can't remember. There's been a few. Not as nearly as many as Evening Hour, which is 100 and I think tomorrow's 166. So, welcome. I got a great show for you tonight. Tonight's a little bit of a rant and a review. I have a lot to say. I have a lot to show. The last two Boardgasms were all about Dungeon Degenerates, and I have some stuff to say about them too. And we're going to talk about their new Kickstarter for Dungeon Degenerates. So, on that note, let me turn this down. I kind of decided to do this one last minute. I had the time. I thought, what the heck? Let me do it. I've been very busy and not online a lot. Let me know how the sound is, if I'm sounding crispy. Tonight I'm drinking Coca-Cola. Old-fashioned Coca-Cola. What's up, Tobias? Yeah, so it's been a busy month. It's been cold and rainy. Our spring here's terrible. I started getting busy with shows, and spring, not every year. I mean, I took a long time off, but for many years, spring has been my turkey hunting camping season. Well, last year and this year, I'm on. We started turkey hunting last week. We did not do well. Oh, Dawn. What's up, Dawn? You're going to like tonight. Yeah, I hope you have some words to say. Especially the title of tonight's show is, and I'm sure you saw it. Where are we here? Boom! No, not that. This. Games Workshop sucks. The age of Playdoh begins. It's a little bit of a edgy title on purpose, but I do have some disdain for the company, and I've been a loyal follower, but I definitely have some words to say. I'm curious of your thoughts, there's a million YouTube videos. If you put the words Games Workshop or Warhammer right now and do a search, there are thousands of videos on both sides of the coin. Actually, most of them lean to one side, but yeah, we'll get into it. So sit back, grab a drink. This is one of those episodes that's probably going to get watched a lot on the reruns. So if you're new, notice if you're live watching, there's a chat. Please participate. We do have a moderator robot because the internet sucks these days. I don't know if you notice. And, Zalthon, that's our moderator bot. YouTube, sorry to say, has been sold out. They're not just corporate influenced, they are federally influenced. They are paid by the government and by corporations to change things constantly. And so, whoop, there goes free speech out the door. Also, that's where creativity comes to a grinding halt for a lot of people when you start putting rules on certain speeches. So, tomorrow, Monday, I'm going to be doing a show on that. Right here, live, 8 p.m. most likely. I never do 7 p.m., but I might have to start moving it earlier, which sucks for the West Coast people. What is it? Yeah, well, it's earlier. Yeah, so let me put this down. Yeah, what else before I get into the subjects? What have I been doing in Game Land? Because this is a board game show. By the way, before we get to my what is new in Game Land, check out my Wacky Mart. This is my online store. You can support my channel, and I do this full-time. I'm a full-time performer, and I count this as one of my gigs. Yeah, you can donate to the channel. There's a donation button here. Boop. It's underneath in the description. And then we got Wacky Mart, and I have t-shirts and posters and all sorts of things, music items. I have a couple really unique items on there. Right now, my satanic playing cards it shows that there are none in stock because there aren't any. They are getting hard to find. You can order them from Hong Kong, or China, I should say. There's a company there that is selling them. They're the one, Legendary Cards printed them, and that's who's selling them right now. I'm trying to get another little stack so I can sell them on my web store. What else before I get to the games? So games, what have I been playing? I haven't been able to Dungeon Master for a few months. My Tuesdays have been busy, and that's when my group meets. So I'm dying to run Dungeon Crawl Classics. In the next few weeks, I think it's going to happen. I have been playing live online Dungeon Degenerates, and the set for it is already, see, it's set up. Hans and Franz just arrived in Brutalberg, and they're getting ready to actually try to assassinate a judge, a crooked judge. And so stay tuned, because I think Boardgasm 19 will be a live play episode of that game. On a side note, and I might as well just go right into it, Goblinko, there's a link for Goblinko underneath. They do not sponsor this channel yet. I talk a lot about them, and I'm friends with the owner and the owner's wife, and I have become an avid supporter for the company. They don't pay me to do, I'm not being paid to fluff them. Dungeon Degenerates is my favorite board game. And I'm wearing one of the Goblinko shirts. Behold. They have a new Kickstarter right now, live. It is the Battle for Brutalberg 8-bit video game. And I'm not a video game guy, but I do like 8-bit games, and I do have a machine where I play 8-bit games constantly. Not constantly, but, I do. I play them. They don't eat up too much time. And I have to stand up and play it. So I'm a fan of 8-bit games. I'm a major fan of Dungeon Degenerates and his fluff. I'm a big fan of the fluff, and I've supported it wholeheartedly. And I was joking around about, hey, what about some Dungeon Degenerate board game stuff to go along with the Kickstarter at Neon Lords? What's up, RP? So Neon Lords, who's in the house, I believe is working with Dungeon Crawl Classics right now, so that's cool. I mean, what a matchup there. Congrats, yeah. So, Dungeon Degenerates announced that they're going to add a new box set for the board game, and that's going into that campaign. If you're watching, Sean, how do you add on the Kickstarter. I forget. It's kind of complicated if I remember. It's got a great name. The name of the new expansion is called Dirty Deeds, which I like. Ah, yes, Ryan, thank you. Yeah, Neon Lords has a really great... Do I have the rule book available? I was just looking at your rule book. Ah, here, let me get it. Here's Neon Lords rule book. And you know, I haven't run a game yet, but I will. This is like one of the coolest new RPGs out there, and I love it. Yeah, check it out. Big fan. Great art, great rule set. So, what? Okay, here, let me put this. God damn it. All right. That's my Dungeon Crawl Classics setup. I tried to do that manage pledge thing on Dungeon Degenerates. I couldn't figure it out. It kept asking if I wanted to add money. And I remember when I did my Kickstarter, the only way to add something in was you could just add a little bit more money in and they would take note. Yeah. Anywho. Oh, it's, what time is it? It's not pot o'clock yet. But look at this baseball bat I just prepared for later. It's the size of my forefinger. It's an eighth of green, wonderful stuff. Anywho. So, support Dungeon Degenerates, Goblinko. It's a mom and pop operation. They're wonderful artists. And their game and their fluff and everything they do, I'm a big fan of. I haven't been a fan. My two favorite games in the world are Dungeon Crawl Classics and Dungeon Degenerates. And then I have a pantheon of games I play and love, like Munchkin. That's my favorite card game. So, yeah, tonight I have a lot to say. First, we're going to do a review of a new game. Well, sort of new. And then we're going to do a rant on Games Workshop. And I'm quite excited for that. So please sit back, grab a drink, have your whatever makes you feel comfy, participate, ask questions, whatever. If you're new to the channel, yes, we're chatty in here. My game show... Uh-oh, okay, I'm going to stop this. I'm running music in the background, and I just stopped it. My music that I background run on all of my internet shows is analog. It's either a record or a CD. So sometimes they skip. Not good. All right, so let me get a little organized here. So today, I'm going to take a puff of the fun stuff, and we are going to review right here Necromolds. I was a late pledge. Now, Necromolds came out. I made some notes here. Originally, the original version, which is this, that I did not get to Kickstarter, I missed it. I heard about it, but I missed it. It came out in 2021. And then a few years later, they put out the expansion Kickstarter, and this is the deluxe cover for it. And the expansion is called Call to Arms. And it added champions and a bunch of other stuff. So I did the Kickstarter, I waited patiently, and I got the mother load a week or so ago. And I got a lot. I wish I could pile it all up, but I got 6 of these, and I mean, there's a lot. I got the whole kit and caboodle. Oh, here we go. Neon Lords is a Necromolds fan. So, yeah, okay. Neon Lords, who's a game maker himself, is saying it's right next to Dungeon Degen as a favorite board game. And I can't say that yet because I've only played it once. But I will say I'm going to give it a high rating, just so you know. My son, who's quite picky. He's also one of the producers of this show. He's my tech guru and my buddy. He's a game buddy too. He really liked it, and he's picky. He likes strategy. So yeah, let me just quickly show you as I light this thing. Here is the board set up with some of the simple scenery that it came with and some of the deluxe scenery. But the game itself, a quick premise, if I had to just tell you what it is, it's a skirmish battle game that uses, instead of points, Play-Doh clay. Molding clay, but Play-Doh style. Play-Doh's a copywritten name. The clay that comes in this is special. It's made by them, but it's Play-Doh. It's the same kind of clay. So that's the game. So what's a skirmish game? Skirmish means it's a skirmish miniature battle game. It means you use miniatures, which, you know, in this case, they're made out of Play-Doh. I'll give you a close-up in a second. And you don't use a board with squares. You measure. And that's what makes it a true mini game. You know, you measure to see how far the guy moves. And if they're going to shoot weapons, it's all measured. And there's no grid on the board. The board's real. It's just scenery and loose. And then there's scenery. And there's the 3D scenery that came in the expansion. And then the flat scenery that came in the original. And so pause as I light the baseball. That was almost a perfect smoke ring that almost hit the camera. Shall I try again? There's a breeze. So, Clint Bohatty, cheers to you for coming up with this concept. It's a childhood fantasy come to life. And I think this game has huge significance on the gaming industry, which we'll talk about in the later subject. And that's because of the miniatures aren't metal like these are over here. Look at these. Woo! Those are metal miniatures. These miniatures are made of Play-Doh. And now let me just give you a close-up of what one of them looks like. Like, here's one of my favorite ones. Look at this guy. Okay? And I'll talk about this specific one a little later. Here's a champion that has his champion banner and his magic weapon, his artifact weapon. Okay. So, it's a miniature skirmish battle game. It's simple. It's not as Oh, why is it skirmish? Skirmish means you have a small group of soldiers. Let's say 8, 7. And instead of having an army, you have a couple guys. And in that little realm, you don't get points. So if I'm going to play you, in Warhammer, we do points. Let's say we do 2,000 points. And some types of troops cost more points than others. But you can spend your points on whatever you want, and then you make your army, and then we fight each other. And that's how you keep it even, is it's on a points scale. So for instance, a dragon might cost 400 points. But a lowly soldier, 6. An armored soldier might be 12. See what I'm saying? So in this game, you get this. You get clay. And the clay gets used in these little... Here, I'm going to now click over to this other thing here. Boop. This is what when you get the kit, this has... Now, right now, this has 2 expansions in it. It does not come with... It comes with, like, 2 of the Play-Dohs. And it comes with, I believe, 3 or 4 molds that you're going to use. And these are the molds. This is what you put your Play-Doh in. Now, here's the crazy thing. let's say you want to make this monster, these monsters. There's 2 in here. Well, the rules for the monster are on the back. Okay? There we go. All right, we'll get to that in a second. And so the game is played where, oh, here we go. American Satan. Oh, yeah. That's for tomorrow. I love it. I love when I get... Masonic Traveler has a really funny question here. Yes, tomorrow. Yes, Masonic Traveler has a question for tomorrow's show. So, what was I going to say? Oh, yeah. But that's a really kind of a long answer, actually. Really, you got to read the chat here, folks. It's fascinating. We get great questions, but yeah, that's definitely... Yeah. Awesome. Perfect. Yeah, tomorrow we're going to have a blast. So, skirmish battle. I take a turn, you take a turn. I take a turn, you take a turn. Oh, you want to shoot your whatever? You measure, you shoot, you roll the dice to see if it did any damage. That's a skirmish battle. This version of it, I will say, in its basic form without the expansion, very basic. And the guy that made it said, this is the perfect game to teach kids how to war game. That's what it is. It's a kid's war game. But it's not for kids. I mean, really, if you're an adult, you will get just as much out of it as a little kid. There's no joke. It's the strategy involved. It starts to get pretty nuanced. The more you play it, the more strategy pops in. So, yep, there we go, Ryan. I love that sometimes I don't have to answer questions because there's so many like-minded freaks that come into my shows. We are all of the same mind, and sometimes someone will ask a question, and my people that come in here, they know the answers. So, the game comes with a few of these rings, if you notice I'm wearing. I'll give you a close-up. And the ring is what you use to smash the Play-Doh piece when you beat it. And it leaves an imprint. And the imprints on these are the collectible part of the game. Now, I'm not a fan of collectible games, but this one's lighthearted. You don't really need to collect them all. I mean, you can. There's a whole bunch of them, and I haven't even opened all the expansion stuff. But, like this one's a snake with a skull. One of them has a crab. One has a bird, And then the lumpy dead guy counts as a piece of a type of scenery. And some of the powers use those things. So there's room for growth. Hey, Goblinko! What's up, Goblinko? My other favorite game. I love that my favorite game humans all come together in these little chat rooms. It's kind of cool. Mr. Bohatty, you should check it out too. The next time I do one, I should interview. I don't like to do live interviews not because I don't like to interview people, because I don't like the tech involved. Like Sean, I would love to do a live interview with you and Mr. Neon Lords himself. I would love to do it. Eventually I need somebody else running my tech on those because it's kind of noodly and there's a lot of room for error. But yeah, Goblinko, this game I can see, yeah. So, me and my son played it the other day. We actually sat down, rolled a lot of baseball bat-sized smoking devices, and had a blast. We had a blast learning it. We had a blast making when you finally start to make your army, it takes like 10 minutes. We had a blast. It's very tactile, and then you get to smash and roll. I've been playing battle games my whole life. Yeah, I have a million questions for you guys, and I never get to ask you. So, eventually, yeah. I love it when people are live. You guys got to come visit me in New York, and we'll do a live one. And yeah, let me know if you're ever in New York. And if you want to crash at the beach, you guys. Seriously. So let me give my review. I would like to show you now. Here, so for instance, the gameplay itself, I like the mechanic of the game, and I'll explain it. It's easy as hell, but it has room for detail. Like here are there's command dice, right? There's 4 of them. You get 4. And then there's the fighting dice, which look like these. These are for fighting. They're 8-siders. And then there's these. These are 6-siders for fighting, but they're when you get weak with wounds. You have to roll these. And then there's the champion die. The champion die, not die. What accent is that? The champion die you get when you start using champions from the expansion. So I will say you want that expansion. That's part of my review. But here you go. Look, so you roll the command dice. Look, these are wild. This one means shooting, and this one means magic. This means movement, and that's it. That's all 4. There's only 4 things on these dice. There's wild card, movement, magic, shooting. That is it. And so what happens is you roll the command dice and you only get 4, and now you put them literally on the mold, the necro mold, which is the theme of the game. And it's actually part of the fluff, which I'll get to. Like it looks like a spell book. And it looks like that, right? And you put the clay, and then on the back, you get the stats and a spot to put the dice. And it tells you the powers. So, you don't need a rule book for this game to play it once you know what the turns are. Everything is on the card. All the things you need to know are right there. Now, here's the problem. You need to learn a little bit of a system of what the symbols mean, and there's a chart. In one game, I think I memorized them. One game, I have them all memorized. So, this is wild. We have an Anton LaVey discussion in the chat. Only my shows could have such wonderful sub-chats in a game show. So, you roll the command dice, you put them on the soldiers you want. If I have the mold and you also want that monster, you can use it. There's a card for you to put the dice on, so you know. And then you look over at your buddy and you can see what he's going to spend his points on, his command dice. And then you do a command. I do one, you do one. I do one, you do one. That's it. In there, if you touch, you have hand-to-hand. If you have a shoot dice, the one that says you can do missile fire, you get to do that. Magic could be all sorts of things, depending on the monster. And some of them, you get to transform the monster. So, for instance, now let me give you a little fun thing that we found in the game. This monster here, I think his name's Magmass. His head is actually there, okay? This game starts off, this character is really good at shooting. He's got a pretty good blast. And then, when you get a magic dice, you put it on him, and when it's his turn, you pull this off, and now, this is a volcano. He's really good now at hand-to-hand combat. Now this guy's a beast. So let's say you kill him, okay? Let me move down and show you how satisfying this is. Let's say, so these little guys here, the mud mumps, these are some of my favorites. They have a shooting range. I'll give you an example of... They have a short shooting range. And the ruler has on it a short side, a medium side, and a long side. And there it is. So here's the short side. Is he in range? Yes, he is. They're in range. Now, one of the reasons why battle games are tricky is there's no grid. So a lot of it is subjective. A lot of this movement, and you got to be fair. You got to be like, yeah, I'll give you that little hair of a millimeter if it's off. But you still have to follow the rules and make it tight. So here, I'll give you an example. So let's say these two guys shoot their little weapons, and they do more wounds than he's able to roll on his defense dice. You then get to and squash him and leave. It's hard to see, but I'll show you. Here, I'll pick it up and show you. Look. See, it leaves a little imprint of a... Oh, it's upside down. There he is. It's a skull. This one's a skull with a snake. And in the game, there's a few mechanics like there's gems. And in the game, you're constantly getting gems and losing gems and getting gems and spending them on various things that you can do. And that's in the rules. And there's not a lot. There's a few things. And really, the rule book, there's no glossary in it. You don't really need one. But in the rule book, it has easy version, hard version, and then a whole bunch of other stuff you can add. For instance, and I didn't get to do this, what happens when you have extra Play-Doh in your jar? Which we always did. There's always just a little bit you didn't get to use. Well, they came up with rules on what to do with the extra Play-Doh. For anybody asking, yes, you can use any kind of Play-Doh. It's the measurement of it. I forget what this is, but it's a measurement. It does not smell like Play-Doh. It has kind of a nice smell. I'll say that. It's nice. Play-Doh is owned by Play-Doh, their smell. I asked Clint that. I remember we talked about it at Gen Con. But yeah, sometimes you got to add water because when you're playing the game, the Play-Doh sits out. So you got to add a little couple drops when you put it away. This one's a little dry. And that's the game. Take turn. And if you kill the champion twice, you win the game. That's it. You're trying to kill the champion twice. And in the game that has the champion. How does it taste? Wow, I like this. Here we go. Perpetual stubble. It's time now. I'm like, I gotta taste it. Clearly it's non-toxic. It's made of wheat. Here we go. Kids, don't try that. Well, you want two different colors. It doesn't taste bad. It tastes a little salty. A little bit like Play-Doh. I'll be honest. I do like the smell. Not too many board game people would actually try to eat it immediately, but I've been ingesting all sorts of flammable toxins my whole life between airplane glue and spray paint. So that is not going to hurt me. It's wheat, and I believe it is definitely non-toxic. Or else this wouldn't be a kid's game. The clay, yeah, you want two different colors. That's all. I mean, maybe they'll work into the rules where certain colors do things. There's a lot of growth to this game. So, what are my reviews? Where are the strengths and what are the weaknesses? It's easy. It's simple. I'm going right off the top of my head. We learned it quick. It was fun to learn. I could teach this to a kid. It looks good. It's beautifully designed. The art's good. The creative part. Oh, I've only ever seen one other game use Play-Doh, and that is trivia question. Anybody remember without Googling? I want to see if somebody can grab this one. There's a game, I'll say late 70s, early 80s. It did use Play-Doh type of clay, and anybody know? I'll let it sit. The 3D scenery is beautiful. The functionality of the doodads, the crystals, the artifacts that you stick in the champions. Cranium, is that a game? Grape Escape? Oh, right, that's another one. There's a few games, right? Yeah, Grape Escape. How about Hawaiian Punch? You made the little pineapple, and then you got to smash it with your fist if you beat. Uh, Cranium, I don't know. Now I got to look it up. Splat, I never saw. Oh, there's a few. Yeah, I knew there was a couple. Well, this one takes it far. And I think the fact that he came up with this is genius, especially when miniatures are getting very expensive. And 3D printing and whatnot, which we'll talk about later. So I really think it's a good game. This has got a good shelf life. People are going to be buying this game for a while. Clint, you got endless ways to go. It would be kind of cool to come up with a rule that uses like bigger monsters, like big, and incorporates. I don't know. Let me think. But right now, maybe something where you put the crystals in Play-Doh, and you have to guess which ones have the crystals. So I love the fact that the Play-Doh is mixed in. I love that the rules accommodate the splatting of the clay. What do I not like? Well, all skirmish games have the problem of subjectivity of the measuring. Like, everything's just a little, like if you move and you move back and like everything's not perfect. And then it takes a while to get used to. I've been doing it since I was a little kid. And I know how to be fair, but not too fair, that ruins the game. And I've played people in Warhammer where it's almost cheating how, like, loose they are with their rules. So, that's my thoughts. The bad, also, okay, and this is, I don't know what you could grab this with, but the fluff of the game, the backstory, comes with, and I'll show you, boop. Here are the rule books. Here's the basic rule book here. And it's really well laid out. Sorry the camera's not focusing. It's a really well laid out rule book. Then it came with a fluff book. And I'm going to switch cameras. This is my very expensive camera. This is the fluff book. It's beautiful. It's got all the background stories of the characters and the champions. Because the champions are what come with the expansion. And they look like this. And this is who you are. You're the guy, not the champion. This is like the overlord running the champion. And there's 6 of them. The fluff ain't grabbing me yet. That's what I'll say. I don't hate it. It just didn't grab me yet. I have no idea what it is necessarily, except something to do with these molds. The Dungeon Degenerates fluff is my favorite new background story stuff I have seen in decades. To me, Dungeon Degenerates, and Sean, you're in the chat here, you can say yes or no to this, but clearly you're influenced by Warhammer and the John Blanche darkness and grittiness of that version of fantasy. And I really like the Germanic, Renaissance-y kind of vibe, which clearly Brutalberg and Dungeon Degenerates, it's all over. So I really, I like it a lot. It's some of the best fluff I've ever seen. And it didn't take me long to notice it and jump into it. This one, I don't know what the heck's going on. I wish it was a little more, like, streamlined fluff. For instance, if the game was like pigs versus goats, and they were monster pigs army, and they were like a faction, and monster goats, and you could kind of mix and match, but that's kind of what it was. And then every now and then the ducklings show up. So the theme would be it's animals. This one, it's such a mixed bag of aliens, bugs, monsters, and aliens. I'm not able to group it into my mind and establish some sort of tangible fluff. Dungeon Degenerates, I can do it without even thinking because of the way it's set up. There's a color coordination with certain types of lands and the monsters that go with it. And for some reason, it's just easier for me to visualize it in a pantheon manner. Does that make sense? I'm using some broad terms here, but this one, I don't know what I'm looking at. Like, on the side here of the box, there's some sort of phoenix bird and a bug, and you don't know what the heck's going on. It's the game's called Necromold's Monster Battles. So it's monsters fighting monsters. This game, you could do a version that's like a Godzilla game, like a Daikaiju, you know? It's got that kind of a vibe. So that's what I want to know. Like the fluff that's on the board, if you look at the board here, it looks like, yeah, old Warhammer. Oh my God, of course. Yes, I agree. Yeah, the new Warhammer is, well, I'm going to be talking about it in a little bit. So this is Handcam 2 on the table. The art on here doesn't have much to do with the game. I mean, it does, I guess, but they're like little people fighting, and there's giant monsters. So, is that what it is? Like, these monsters are really big? I don't know. I mean, they're not Godzilla-sized, I don't think. And that's not... You know what I'm saying? Like, again, I don't know. Maybe they're not that big. So, yeah, Kaiju Big Battles. Well, that's kind of what this is. So, I mean, I'm not knocking the fluff. I haven't read it yet. I'm going to sit down and read it. It might blow my head off. But there's a certain style of background story I've always liked. I love, like, Goblinko just pointed out, I said he was influenced by Warhammer, and he just said, he said it. You answered it. I think a lot of, this is Sean Auberg speaking himself. I think a lot of lore and stories these days are complicated just to be complicated. Yes, okay. This is my greatest thing I learned in school from a teacher named Victoria Santa Cruz. I did a whole episode on what I learned from her because it was so prolific in my life. She always said clever kills art. Clever. Clever's bad. Clever's ego over the top. And it's you adding unnecessary crap to something that needs to be streamlined. And so sometimes you're right. People add too much when... That's why I said I wish this game was pigs versus goats. Something really streamlined. Like basic stuff. Not too nuanced. I used to use a punk kiss methodology to keep it simple. Yes, keep it simple, stupid. Well, so kiss, keep it simple, stupid. In one of my magic books, you probably have never heard of unless you're a magician, let alone... You'd have to be a pro magician to know this guy's name. Tommy Wonder. I'm looking at the book right now, The Books of Wonder, 2-volume set. He wrote a whole essay on keeping it simple. And he said, all right, here we go. I'm going to break it up. Keep it simple, stupid. Well, first of all, let's clean it up. Stupid is the wrong word because it's not stupid to keep it simple. So, keep it simple. Well, keeping it simple is bad because it implies no effort. So, the correct term is make it simple. And that's my secret to doing any kind of art or any project. And I'm sure Sean would agree. Yo, Bill Yon in the house. Bill Yon was at my middle school, high school lunchroom table where we sat and dorked out on Dungeons and Dragons. Literally, like, you know, old school style. Well, how else will the consumers know how to be deep and edgy if you don't make it complicated? Oh, that's not really it. What is? Wait, go back. Let's figure that out. Oh, what's that referring to? I'm curious. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, sometimes people just think that it's not enough when Hey, what's up, sis? I honestly don't know. Yeah, like they're a little scared to put something a little more bare bones, maybe. So the game Dungeon Degenerates in the rules set, there are a lot of rules, but the actual playing part is kind of straight up. There's only a few things that happen. Um, there's too much on the market. One is trying to be classic. I see. Interesting. Um, when I think of classic games like old school Dungeons and Dragons and board games, the complicated part was people weren't good at laying out the rules and how to do it yet. So you had to kind of, it took forever to figure out a system. Like Dungeons and Dragons, those rule books were terrible. Terrible in the sense that they weren't laid out so easy. Good in the sense that it forced us to work a little harder, I would say, right? So there's a good part to that and a bad part, which I'm going to get into with Warhammer. This is where we're getting to the Warhammer stuff. So, yes, let's keep moving. I want to jump into Warhammer because we got game gurus in the house now. We have players that have played games for years. We have game creators, the big ones, the actual game creators are in the chat. And I'd like to get to the GW thing. So, any questions about this game, ask me. I've only played one game, and I do like it a lot. I will play it again. I think it's fun. Squashing the guys is fun. That's like, I can't wait to see what happens. Congratulations on a successful Kickstarter, and I think it's available very soon online, this game. It's not like right now, but soon. So, let's move into the other subject. GW, aka Games Workshop, aka Warhammer, Warhammer 40,000, Old Hammer, some of us call. Published author, Bill Yon, what are you writing? What Bill said. I hear my kids making these really epic and complicated stories for their Pathfinder games, and yet I can't read it because the stupid heart's covering it. Something to tell a gripping story. Well, it's like songwriting. How many people, the Steve Vais are there where he can't write a great song that no one remembers? There ain't no Highway to Hell coming out of there. Simplicity lets you add a couple, it lets you add your own too. That's what on the art note, when something's simple, it requires the player, the person involved, to join up with. And so I think it takes a little bit of, you got to have a little bit of trusting your gut that your material in its raw form is meaningful. That's the hard part, right? Am I crazy in saying that? That would be, to me, the most honest way to look at that is if you trust, like, for instance, a magic trick, because that's what I do. You guys are game creators. I make up magic routines. I try to come up with tricks and in their rawest form, present that on stage and make the miracle part, the magic part, the part that's impossible, you highlight that as very important, even if it's small. And so, for instance, a lesson for the magician types, in my nightclub shows, some of the tricks I do are actually small, but get giant reactions for a large crowd. And it's because of how I'm presenting it. The musicality of the performance mixed with my promoting of what the actual moment of magic and surprise is. And it's very simple. When I see a magician do a trick where this, he makes someone's card appear, then it's in his sock, then he has a tattoo of it, then it's in his hair, he blows a puff of smoke. It's for one thing, it's too much. It should be 1, 2, pow. I thought of a card, and the guy pulled it out of his sneaker. Like simple. So something that's not simple is Warhammer. How did I come to Games Workshop? So here we go. Oh, we also have someone who worked for Game Workshop and still does, maybe. I'm not sure. I don't know if you still... Oh yeah, Kaiju Big Battle is a fun game. Do you still work for Games Workshop, Mr. Don? Maybe you're not allowed to say. Yeah, he might not be able to talk on this. I discovered Warhammer via Rogue Trader, Warhammer 40,000 rulebook, which I have in the other room. I will never sell it. Changed my life. I was playing Dungeons and Dragons, and then I discovered miniature gaming. I played Rogue Trader for a couple years. The problem was it was too expensive. The miniatures were already outrageous, and they came in 2 at a time blisters. It was weird. Now we fast forward. I switch over to Fantasy Battle. I thought the game was better. Oh, not for a few years. Okay. I thought Fantasy Battle was a better game. I liked painting hair and flesh more than armor. When you're in Warhammer Land, which is a future game, Warhammer 40,000 is the future. Warhammer Fantasy is medieval fantasy. Warhammer 40,000 are space marines, space orcs, spaceships, jet bikes, that kind of stuff. I went from that to fantasy. I liked building. Look, this is Warhammer Fantasy stuff. Look at those houses, like that kind of stuff. Way more my style. I like Conan the Barbarian, not Star Wars. That's me. That's my style. The game is complicated, Warhammer. The rulebook is this thick. It requires a lot of effort in the army building, in the painting, in the playing, and the company eventually opened up Warhammer stores they were called Games Workshop at the time. The new ones are called Warhammer. And the first time I walked into one, oh yeah, here you go. Bill Yon says Blood Bowl is the best GW product. I would say second best, next to Mordheim. So then, which we'll talk about quick before I give a rant. But they opened these stores. They were always expensive. They always made nice stuff. What did I write here? They started getting kind of corporate. And whatever, I'm still playing the game. I'm building armies. I think I had my first army was an undead army, and then my beloved dwarf army, which I played the most. I have 9 Warhammer armies. They're right on the other side of that wall. I sold all of my 40K stuff, Warhammer 40,000, to buy more fantasy. For a lot of money, it got valuable. I saved 1 Space Marine and I think 1 Orc. I saved 1 of each just because I have some of the old ones. So, Mordheim came out. Don, I don't know if you remember when Mordheim came out. That is my favorite Warhammer product. I wish they would just re-release it as it was. Beautiful game. Skirmish like this game. You don't need a lot. They don't make as much money. Now, for those of you that don't know, Warhammer Fantasy is definitely a derivative of Tolkien's Lord of the Ring world. It's orcs and elves and giants and demon armies, and it's very Tolkien. And so the company's corporate, and you can kind of tell that the future version of their game, the intellectual property, thank you, Ryan, very much. They have more of a hold on the IP of the future stuff and not on the fantasy stuff. Oh my God, I played a lot of Mordheim. I was in that league on 8th Street, and I remember, that was if I have to think of my most favorite New York City Warhammer world brain, it was that fun Mordheim league that we did in the store. I also have many memories of painting in the store. We used to sit around and paint. Really, it's like beautiful memories. Like, I would bring my kid in, and he was really little, and we would paint and play. So many good memories. So Bill Yon says, back in the day, you could get 3 rhinos for 4 for 30. Now it's 55 for 1. Yep, there he is. You ran the league. Dude, it was so cool, man. It was like, Man, I'm trying to think of that guy's name that I played the most. Latino gentleman from another country. Can't remember. There was one guy. I mean, it started with an A. Wow. Anywho. So the game, I remember one time. Okay. So here's the first thing that happened in a Games Workshop store that I was just like, oh, God. I remember one day I walked in, and Dawn, somebody in here right now used to work there. This is beautiful that you showed up to this chat, because it makes this way more fun to have a good friend. He's a good friend, by the way. He's not like a stranger. And we were both there together. And Bill Yawn, who's a good friend that I grew up with in school, way back. It's so cool to have you in here too, because this is my game world from youth to old man. And people, and then we have all these chat people in here that are the actual creators. This is fun. If Steve Jackson shows up, we're really gonna have a party in here. Oh yeah, the Fantasy Necromunda. Yeah. Well, they kill them off because they don't make as much money. I think it stimulates, but then that's it. What was I going to say? Oh, so I walk into Games Workshop. We would play all the time on rotation the Conan the Barbarian soundtrack. I never didn't like it. I still listen to that soundtrack. You got it, Benjamin. We'll get to that. If you read the chats, you'll see where we're getting on the IP, the intellectual property. You see, Games Workshop now is owned by a corporation. It was a corporation by then. And like all corporations, if they don't expand, they die. And in expansion, just like gangsters have to keep paying up, if you don't keep expanding, you start to shrink. If you start to shrink, the company closes. As soon as something becomes a corporation, it's either going to suck or close. You pick. You're probably going to suck, and if it doesn't, it'll eventually close. Mom and pop operations, just like B-movie actors, last longer. Okay? So, I gave away the end of the show, but that's my opinion. I walk into the Games Workshop, and on the music, I hear techno music. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't even be around that kind of stuff. When I have to do magic shows and that's what they're blasting at the parties, it's just like, I tune it out, but it makes me want to vomit. Because it's music that you hate, but you can't help to kind of get into the groove. It's like our DNA is programmed to kind of do that to drum beats. It's why music is the highest art form of all. I post my total points of Craft World Elder if I need to prove my cred. I love this. So, and I said, I don't know who I asked. It might have been you, Don, but I think it was Terry. You remember big guy Terry? Terry turned me on to a lot of good books. So, anyway. They're like, yeah, the corporate said we have to play this kind of music now because it makes people spend money. Ugh. Right? And then I remember, like, people that worked for Games Workshop, and not you, Don. You're out of this one. But I remember going to other stores in other cities and the conventions, and, like, the way that the people sold the game didn't seem natural. And here's what I mean. They would play a quick demo game, and they would overact all the parts to the game. Like making sound effects and almost like putting on a show, which I'm sure they were told to do, which is why it didn't look good when certain people did it, because it's not part of their character. Some people can do that and make it good. Some people aren't good at it, and it comes across disingenuous and kind of lame and what I call corporate whoring. And so they became corporate whores. Oh, there you go. Terry hired you. See how that works? Small, happy family. We all know each other. Ray, Terry, Dawn. We can go on. I had a blast there. So, The game also had a few rules, or the stores, that I did appreciate. Like, well, you can't play unless you have a painted army. It's only fair. If I spent my whole days painting an army and doing my best, I don't want to sit down and play somebody whose army's metal or sprayed one color. It's no fun. The game's aesthetics are part of the game. And that was a rule. Well, they eventually got rid of it to get more players, which kind of ruined the game. Now people are showing up with crappy armies and people coming in. I like that there was a gate to get in, and that is, it's hard. It was a game for the people that wanted to put in some effort. It attracted those types. But corporately, those types don't spend as much money as the fickle guy who's just starting to play. And so the game, the sell, and I'm pretty sure you'll agree to this because it's clear, they wanted new young players because they spend a lot of money up front and they kind of try to collect everything quick and then they kind of die off, but you got their money, you know? It got weird. The prices of the miniatures started to go up, and then all of the rules started to change. Like, you know, they started making it easier. They started making the game rules easier. Like, you can measure everything. Wait, what? Yeah, you just measure. Well, that was the whole fun part, is like when you were good, you got good at guessing distances on the table. And so for the new guys that sucked, they would get tabled from the good guy because he was able to guess the distances well. It was a skill that you got to show and do it on. It's like throwing darts. You want to show the skill, right? They got rid of all that stuff. They started to corporate whore. Well, it seems like right now, one of the reasons why a lot of people is upset with Games Workshop is because of the corporate whoring thing. And it's because of what some would see as forced diversity. And I gotta be honest, I kind of agree. And here's why. The controversy right now, that's all over the internet. If you Google this, it's everywhere. There's a lot of people talking about it. There's a character in Warhammer 40,000, a type of a character that is a space marine that guards the Emperor. The Custodes. They are the army. They're the Secret Service of the future Emperor. And in the game of Warhammer, which is about really kind of totalitarian factions in the universe really trying to hammer down on each other, there's no real good guys or bad guys in the game. I mean, the Emperor, people think those are the quote good guys, but what's the saying? In the future, there's only war. I would say, it's war. It's people killing each other. They're not making cakes. They're killing. And we're recreating it on a tabletop. So in the game, they decided out of nowhere that the custode, first of all, Space Marines are traditionally, they're just men. They're genetically modified male humans that are like really big and like, it's very specific. They're almost bred to be that. And they've always been men. Well, out of nowhere, there's female custodes now. And people are like, whoa, wait, what? They've never done that before. Now, mind you, the game doesn't have a lot of female characters, but there's an army of women called the Sisters of Battle. And I do believe, and you can clarify this, but when that came out, that was a big deal. People loved it. A lot of people wanted to play them immediately. And no one said that Games Workshop, that I remember, was virtue signaling by doing that. We were like, wow, an army of like chick warriors in the future, I'm in. There was no like, are they virtue signaling? It was not even discussed. Well, this game, this happens, and so some of the players were like, wow, they just kind of out of nowhere changed the backstory of these Marines. Now, it's fantasy. Most people say, who cares? Let them change it. So somebody tweeted on Twitter X, we'll call it. I hate calling it X. Twitter X, and I'll call it Twitter X because it's Twitter, and then Elon bought it, so it's not really Twitter anymore, so Twitter X. Somebody asked them where that came from, and their response was, there's always been female custodes. So instead of saying, well, we decided to change it up a bit, they kind of gaslit it up and said, wink, wink, there's always been this. And then, of course, people reacted. Like, what the? Now, I've had friends go, why do you care? Well, I mean, honestly, I don't really care, but I do care. On a really, like, fine line of something. See this? Here we go. The nuns. Yeah. Exactly. We loved it. Do you remember anybody claiming virtue signaling is what I'm asking anybody involved here in Warhammer. I don't. This new one, immediately everybody was like, virtue signaling. Immediately. Now, here's how I look at it. I don't care if they're female or not, but why can't we have fluff that is, quote, not diverse? Why does everything have to be diverse now? In my stories, I want bad guys that are bad. And I want totalitarianism in my games. And I want bad seeded ideas to take place on the tabletop. It's a form of tragedy, my friends. We learn from making these tragedies happen. And then we can talk about them. We can even jump into it and participate a bit, maybe. And feel this thing that's kind of taboo, maybe. That's the fantasy part, you know? People like to do all sorts of things for fantasy and not for real. Look at how many people do, like, rape fantasies and stuff like that, you know? So, back to fantasy as entertainment. I always thought, so seeing this happen, it's like, okay, they're doing it for a reason. It doesn't seem like it just flew out of nowhere. So, well, one of the reasons, all right, so here, okay, hold on, I want to get ahead. They eventually got rid of Fantasy Battle Warhammer and made a new game called Age of Sigmar, where they changed, like, the spelling of the word orc, which they couldn't own. They spelled it differently, and everything got IP'd, so they own it, right? No, they were introduced way before virtue signaling. Right, exactly. We didn't even talk about virtue signaling. I mean, people virtue signaled, but it wasn't what I always say is a thing. Right now, if you say virtue signaling, we know what it is. So my problem with it is it's just like, okay, first of all, the game is the idea of it being a mom and pop company, it's over. And they're charging a lot of money for their miniatures now. I'm talking about so much. Oh, they did lose their way as soon as they went super corporate. I agree. Okay, so this safe and dulled down thing that you just said, why do they want that? It's because the corporations won't put money into it unless it suits some sort of overlord standard now, where they check off boxes so no one's offended, so they don't get in trouble, no one's sued, there's no edgy. They're trying to make things look edgy without it being edgy. That's kind of a common theme these days. Real edgy is edgy. And people don't like real edgy. I know. I live an edgy life, and I have people that don't like me because I push the envelope for real and have my whole life. I'll die on that one. That's just me. And so real edgy, you'll find it in the arts, the real arts, not the corporate arts. As soon as something's corporate, it's over. Now, one of the rumors is Warhammer knows their days are numbered. Games Workshop's days are numbered with making minis. Why? Look at this mini. It's Playdoh. Costs what? A nickel? Not even. 2 cents? People are finding other ways to do it. Now, Sean Auberg makes metal miniatures. They're fine art. Yes, they cost more money. Remember when you were considering, Sean, doing resin for the new batch? And look, I don't mind resin occasionally, but when I pick up a metal mini, I'll pay the extra whatever. I'll do it. I'm not alone. I know I'm not. I've talked about this with millions of other gamer types. If I'm going to paint minis, I still like metal. There are some resins I like, but resin is, if it gets a little too hot, it's done, you know? 3D printing. 3D printer go brr. That's a new hashtag for Games Workshop. Anytime Games Workshop wants to throw their weight around, the hashtag is 3D printer go burr. It's pretty easy to knock them off now. Now, do I want to knock them off? No. No one does. But if you're going to overprice it, you're going to get knocked off. What was I getting at? I had a point to make. So, hold on. Oh, so where's this coming from? This virtue signaling. What's going on here? Like right now, every company's like, we have to have this type, and they have to be in the front and center. And like, we have to make sure everybody sees that that's what we're doing. And it's so much now that it looks like a comedy act. You know, it looks like a Saturday Night Live skit. As soon as I hear they're remaking something, it's the South Park thing. It's like, it's going to be a girl and she's going to be gay and probably a minority. You know, that's like a joke. And then you go, oh, it is that. Again and again and again and again. It's just like, they're clearly following a formula. Now, that would what we call equity. And I have talked about on my other show what I think about equity. Not equality, equity, meaning forced equality. I'm not a fan. I could do a 20-hour chat on the details of it and why I see it as too many problems. It might not look like a problem at first, which is why it sounds appealing to a lot of people as a solution to inequities, right? That's why. So someone's calling the shots. Now, one of the rumors is Games Workshop's like, look, we made a lot of money with some video games. I get it. That's a big business. Goblinko's doing a video game. It's probably a lot of work up front, but then the production, printing, and all that way easier, I would say. I'm guessing. Mamma mia, what's up? Mama's in the house. Happy 1 week Mama's Day before. Here we go. Paul says it might have something to do with Amazon. Yes. So far, that's a rumor. I don't think there's any proof of that. There is a whistleblower guy that said that. Amazon's supposed to be doing a Warhammer 40,000 TV show with Henry Cavill involved as a producer and actor. I love Henry. He seems like a great guy, and he's a great actor. I like his Superman. He plays Warhammer. He plays the Custodes too, I think. And he's involved. And when I heard he's involved, I'm like, oh, it's going to be great. But then it's Amazon. And, So, my main gripe is, as soon as you make something and make it a big thing, as soon as it becomes big, it falls into another category. And that category is, it's got to keep expanding. This is Friedrich Nietzsche 101. If something ain't expanding, it's will. If it doesn't feel a power increase, it's decreasing. There ain't no pause. There's no such thing. Just like there's no such thing as equality. Show me one thing that's equal in the universe. Nothing. It's doing this constantly. It might, for a second, you know, like there's times where things are kind of even, Steven, but things are ebbs and flows. And sometimes one thing is powerful in its true self, and it's like doing this even in its existence, it's moving up and down. So I stopped playing Warhammer and Games Workshop games on a serious level a while ago, actually. I would say 10 years. Good solid 10 years. Now, I still play Mordheim once in a while. I still play Blood Bowl. There's some things I'll bust out. I like their boat game, Dreadfleet. It didn't get good reviews. I like it. But as like the new stuff, my golly, it is not. There's so many problems. I don't even like the way they sculpt miniatures anymore. Look, everybody's doing 3D sculpting. Great. Sean, you just said a few minutes ago how everybody's adding too much detail. Look at the new Warhammer minis. They're garbage. I can't even tell what I'm looking at. Now, are they detailed? Yes. Are they well made? I guess. Are they easy to put together? Maybe. But there's I call them swirly whirlies. Every time I see a Warhammer mini, it's swirly. It's like, ooh, there's like a million things going on. I don't even know what I'm looking at. It's bloated. Everything has to expand. Everything has to expand. When you're a corporation, if you're not expanding, the shareholders are mad, and you make quick decisions, and they're not always creative. They can't be. Hey, once you put, hey, you have to check off boxes, we got to have a girl space marine play this part. Like, why? Well, because we do now. This is how we do things. We're using this equal equity thing that is, I think there's companies now making people sign paperwork before they hire you that you agree to some of these things. Again, weird. Where are we living? What happened? Where I'm signing to what? They're checking to see if your values now match theirs, is what they're doing. Now, is it nice when people's values match yours? Yeah. Sometimes they kind of have to for certain things. But in a country where we have different values, which is why America's awesome, that's not good. We should have the same values for most things. Not most things, some core values. And some things we're not going to, agree upon. That's fine. That's the whole idea of this country. Is it's a out of many different groups, we become a unit. There's certain things that bring us all together. Some things not. And that's why it's hard. It's not easy. And we have to talk about it. And the new way of doing it and canceling people and calling them bigots and racists. And look, everything I'm saying right now, there's somebody out there sitting going, that guy's a racist. That guy's a bigot for just even mentioning these things. Or even having the idea to think maybe equity ain't a good idea. Now, trying to make things equal, well, duh, obviously that's good. How could it not be? That's what, these games are trying to do. They're trying to balance it out. That way you have a fair, fun game. And that means the game, now, the unequal part is the players. If we were both equal in our intellect and our how we play board games, it wouldn't be fun. Somebody's going to be better than the other, and that's not equal. And someone's going to lose. And by them losing the game, does that make them upset? And now we can't have games that have an ending that lose. I saw a video a while ago, and I posted a piece of it, in my show. I did a Boardgasm complaining about how they changed the fluff in Dungeons and Dragons. They got rid of the word superior in the beholder's fluff, because superior implies white supremacy stuff. And what? Wait, what? This is if this guy's superior, if this monster thinks he's the superior version of his own monster, and each one of these monsters does such, if you're going to line that up with some sort of white supremacy, Nazi idealism, because of the words is the same word, not only are you an idiot, the way you're solving the problem is so wrong, I don't have enough time to go over it. That's what they're doing. And so I did a show on it, and gaudy is it. They got too much. There's a Dungeon Master webpage. The guy's got thousands of fans. He's got one of those things. And he did a thing on how to be a good dungeon master. And you can kind of tell he's a shill for Wizards of the Coast, the people that own Dungeons and Dragons. He actually says in the game, we shouldn't be mean to orcs anymore in games, because orcs kind of represent minorities, and they're different, even though they're bloodthirsty killers and tribal and barbaric. Go up and say hi to the orc and make sure he is a bad guy before you kill him. Just can't kill him and assume he's always bad. So you're never allowed to assume orcs are just evil. And it's said in the fluff, they're an evil race. Now, they don't like the word race. They don't like the word evil race. How dare you imply there are evil races? What? Why can't we have that in fantasy gaming? Well, he says it in the show. He goes, put your ideas into your games. Show your values in your games. He says it. He actually says it in the thing. I was trying to find it today. I was going to show it. Is that his idea? Or did they tell him to say that? Either or, it's insane. What do you mean? You can't experiment with morals in role-playing gaming? I liked these games because you could do that. You know? Yeah, right. There's new role-playing games that won't even let you use the word race in the game. I mean, really, now we're getting rid of language words that have multiple meanings. And you're not allowed to use it anymore because it might make people think you're... It's that right there, what I just showed you, that type of thinking is so bad for the dummy and the smart guy. It's so insane. No, I know. Yeah. No, but it's not... Okay, so... And Hasbro is owned by Alphabet. So Hasbro's not even the top dog. And I think the top dog has a couple primary shareholders, which means there's some weird overlords telling all... There really is these, like, big shots. Now, I don't know if they all talk to each other. They might. They do have these weird Bilderberg meetings that nobody covers on the news, and anybody that mentions it gets put in the cuckoo category. But, yeah, I mean, there you go. TSR is owned by Wizards of the Coast, who's owned by Hasbro, who's owned by Alphabet. How could you make anything good in that system? It's too big. It's too much. Especially stuff that's supposed to be creative and fun, and for a very niche group of humans. Not a very broad... This kind of type of gaming is for a couple people. They're trying to broad mainstream it, and as you can see, it's not working. Games Workshop's CFO sold 2/3 of her stock in the company last week after this all happened, and the gamers all reacted. Some of the gamer channels get more views than the major news channels. You know, like some of these people have really big channels. You can tell who the shills are pretty quick. What else is there to say? Wow, this was a long episode because I have a lot to say on this. I think about it. I do. I want people to be creative. I want things to be able to... So, why is this bad? It's bad because it makes eggshell artists. It makes eggshell creativity. It makes, and here's the really bad one, if you know things are sensitive, whether it be modern racial politics or LGB plus politics, whatever the new modern politics are, whether it be the Republicans and Democrat kind of stuff, whatever it is, as soon as it becomes eggshelly and scolding and virtue signaling, it's usually because, and as I talk, I'm going to put some Play-Doh away because I don't want it to dry out. It's because I lost my thought. Hold on. Only indie games or old games for me. Yeah, of course. That's kind of how I do it. I totally lost my entire train of thought there. I was tying a few things together, which happens, which I'll get back to it. I know what I was going to say. This is important. This is kind of what my show tomorrow is about. I'm just going to end it here with this thought, and we're going to pick it up tomorrow, but go in a couple other directions. As soon as you eggshell that to solve the problem of making people equal and live together better, what happens is things naturally segregate. It actually goes the opposite way. And the reason? There's science involved. We evolved to run from negativity. Our minds and our bodies. It's science. It's how our brains operate. It's our data processor. It's programmed to do that on default. It's how we survived. It's how we got out of the jungle alive. Anything negative, we go this way. So as soon as you see eggshell, that's not positive. That's a negative in your data. We go here. As soon as you see people are trying to do certain things with diversify and you gotta sign paperwork and we go over here. Now things start to segregate. It's bad. It's doing the opposite of what they're intending. It's splitting up people. It's not bringing them together. And when I remember the 80s in film and television and in the 70s, I remember all of my heroes in film were lady heroes and black guys. Really? Mr. T was my hero when I was a little kid. And Ripley was, for me, one of the greatest action heroes of all time. So, and none of us thought of any of these as virtue signaling. None of us thought that the end of Friday the 13th with the hero being a girl was a virtue signal. Nobody. Nobody thought Blade was a virtue signal and being the first black superhero from, Marvel to make a big major movie. Wesley Snipes killed it as the character, and he should do another one. He should. Nobody thought of it. Now we think of it as virtue signaling. It changed. And it's not... Notice, by them doing all of this extra effort, it did the opposite. It really did. It's terrible. So, I don't know. Thoughts? Anybody? I just spat out like a whirlwind of my thoughts on the subject. It makes creativity die. And it makes everything have to go. And so maybe the good part is the underground will grow. The underground gaming, the zine artists, the mom and pop people, that's where it's at, especially in the game business. The real game nerds that really like to paint and do miniatures and put a lot of time into this stuff, it's not a giant scene. It got bigger. COVID helped. Everybody was at home goofing around. They got sick of looking at computers. They realized that looking at a three-dimensional object that you can touch has benefits. So, let's see. Real recognizes real. It does. That's why my chat, listen to this. Do you know how many game podcasts there are that get thousands of views? And I've been doing this like a freak and I can barely get anybody. Yet, some of my favorite game human beings are in this room right now. So, I mean, really. Players, creators, both, It is sad. I mean, really, it's really kind of sad how it all happens like this, and it splits everybody up, and it's just like, what? And at the end of the day, I just think there's a few, it's not that complicated. I don't know. That's the only thing I know. No, that's, anybody remember? You got to watch my other podcast. So, tomorrow, everybody, did I change the news page? Let me see. News pick. Yes, this is tomorrow. Episode 166. Creative Death and Nietzsche's Broken Heart. I think you'll like this one. Hi, Zalthon. Folks, I hope you have a great Sunday night. Oh, what's this? Here we go. I love when I'm ending and then I end up going into a talk hole here. Other people play RPGs. Yeah, I mean, some people do like that. Well, that's it. They're trying to make it for everyone. As soon as you make something for everyone, you've watered it down. If we made a song and let everybody, 3,000 people pick what goes in the song, it's not going to be a good song. It's going to be a mess. You can't do that. Things aren't for everybody. And they don't need to be. Why? Why can't you? Who cares? Mr. Tobias, a.k.a. Dawn. Yes, take care and come visit. Let me know when you're around. Beach season's coming. Yeah, keep gaming. Don't stop. Support the local guys. Neon Lords in the house. Goblinko, Sean Auberg. Go support those guys. And Ryan, what's the other game? I'm trying to keep up here. Who's in here now? What's the game you're sending me? And it won't be good, but it'll be on the Billboard charts. Yeah. I mean, all my favorite tunes. You know, how many punk bands made it to the top 10? None here. Maybe in the UK. I think the Sex Pistols broke it. But yeah, really. I mean, all the great musics that I liked in rock and roll never made it big. AC/DC might be the only exception. Hold on. I'm holding on. As you talk, I'm going to actually squash these last few. I'm going to use a different ring. Let's use... hold on. Here's a frog. What the hell is this? I don't even know what this is. Ooh. That's a dinosaur head. That's kind of cool. And then, what else do we have? Ooh, how about this one? Oh, I like this one. This one's a spider web. These are great. If you're wondering what one of the mechanics with this is, you put swords in them, and when they get 4, they get squashed. Well, he doesn't have any swords, but I'll squash him. There you go. Wow, love the game. This is some sort of dragonfly? I can't see. Folks, I have had a great time tonight. My name is Cardone. You know what I'm going to take us out with tonight? A little bit of fantasy. I'm going to show the trailer to Sword and Sorcerer. Party on!
Listen now of a time long past when sorcery thrived and wild adventure was forever in the offing. A deadly sorcerer is called out of nightmare by a ruthless king driven into evil. And a mystical sword is forged for a mighty warrior who rises out of legend to topple a kingdom. The Sword and the Sorcerer.
I myself raised Zusha from the dead. Little did I know what I let loose upon the world. Tell us where he is and save us all. You want me to snatch your brother from the king's dungeons for one night with you? That's a slim bounty for such a task.
Miserable bastard.
3 hours' time. One man will control the entire civilized world.
Cromwell's power, Cromwell's pride, and Cromwell's flesh shall be mine!
A titanic struggle between good and evil that determines the fate of an entire dynasty. Dungeons and dragons, serpents and splendor, wizards and witches, danger and desire. And the mightiest of all heroes, in the greatest of all adventures. The Sword and the Sorcerer.
Hey, what's up? If you like board games, miniatures, and the smell of paint and glue, you are in the right place. Welcome to Boardgasm.